Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to Positive Talk, everybody. My name, of course, as you probably have guessed by now, is Kevin McDonald, and I get the opportunity to talk to some of the most fabulous people in the world, one of which is with us right now. And I'm looking forward to talking with her about a myriad of things in her world, because she does all kinds of things, from a psychic nature, from being a medium. She's also a coach. She's a relationship coach. She does all kinds of positive things to help the world today. And June Edward is our guest. June, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Kevin, how are you?
I'm always good. You know, with a show like Positive Talk, I can't say, oh, well, today's a coffee day. It's a
2-cup of coffee day or a 3-cup of coffee day today.
Exactly. Or a couple of hits of scotch or something. I don't know.
Oh, Bloody Mary morning, huh?
Exactly. Well, I can't do that because it doesn't work for me. But
yeah, I don't drink in the morning. I can't do that either. Yeah,
some people I imagine do.
Yeah, I get too tired.
But
anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, a couple of Bloody Marys and all I want to do is take a nap.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and then you don't feel that good and all. Anyway, enough of that. But I wanted to talk to you today. You've been on the show before. I've enjoyed our conversations. You are, you've written several books. One is called All's Fair in Love and Karma, and the Destiny Card Journal, and A Night on the Other Side, and Dancing with the Universe, and all kinds of things. First of all, as an author, you've been doing this for a long time. Well, not a long time because you're not that old. So,
I wish.
But what decided you to become an author and to write these books that are so impactful to people?
So I'm a Gemini, and Geminis are writers. And apparently my life path, I have a 3 of clubs in there as my karma card, which means I'm destined to write. So I'm told, so as I read things and go through all the astrological charts and everything. But, you know, I started writing my autobiography probably when I was 30. No, younger than that. Probably 25. And I just felt that it was a story that needed to be told and I should write it. And of course, I was raising my children and everything, and they were into computers on school, and they'd find it in there and I'd have to delete it and start all over again. And, you know, I was never really good on computers to begin with. So to back it up or store it on things, I wasn't good at that point. But I eventually started it from scratch again about maybe 8 years ago, I guess. And was writing that, and at the time taking care of my mom, who was passing away at the age of 93, and I was teaching psychic development and mediumship development at the same time and working. And I just kept hearing, you've got to write the book, you've got to write the book. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm writing the book. And they're like, no, not that book. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, you need to write a book, mediumship and psychic, so that your students have like a handbook to take home. I'm like, oh, okay. So if you want me to do that with everything else that I'm doing, you're going to have to help me, because I don't have time for all this. So I literally called on the highest guide that I could on the other side to help me write the book. And I wrote it and published it in 6 weeks. And that was my first book.
That's amazing. Yeah. Because normally people will take a year to 2 to write it, and then they send it to the editor, and the editor takes it apart, and then they have to send it back, and then you have to do another revision and stuff like that. And then you have to find the publisher, and to get all that done in 6 weeks, that's amazing.
It's a process. It's an absolute process. And then I finished the second book, which was Dancing with the Universe, A Making of a Medium. That is my autobiography. And then I wrote this book, All's Fair in Love and Karma, and that came out last year and immediately was a bestseller in four categories, stayed on the bestseller list for about 3 weeks, and then it won the Reader's Choice Award as well. So pretty proud of it.
As,
Yeah.
as considering that, and this is, a lot of people don't know this, but and when you sit down to write a book, they don't tell you this, but the average book that gets published sells a whopping 200 or so copies.
Not even 100.
Oh, is it even less?
Is the average. Yeah. Well, so what happens is this: since COVID, everyone wants to write. Millions more books have been published since COVID. So it is that much more difficult to become a bestseller or to sell your books because there's so many more books being published at this point.
And it's kind of like everything else in this world. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. It's like there are some people who write very well and some people who should not necessarily be writing or should take a class before they write in many cases. So, but congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
now, by the way, you're also known as the Massachusetts medium.
I did go by that when I lived in Massachusetts, but I moved out of Massachusetts about 3 years ago. I'm now in Florida. I still have a lot of clients up, but I'm in Florida.
So now you're the Florida medium.
It's not the same ring though.
Nah, no, it's the other one is a little bit more.
And I'm showing my Massachusetts today, I guess. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm wearing my Patriots shirt. So they're either going to love football or not.
By the way, isn't it sad that we out here in Seattle, we lost Pete Carroll. We didn't lose him. He got fired.
I don't know the names of people other than Tom Brady. And quite honestly, I love football. I'll watch any game you put in front of me. It's that simple. But for me to remember people's names, I forget it.
You don't remember Bill Belichick?
Him I remember.
Yeah, and he's no longer with the team either. So
yeah, he left. Is he going to go somewhere else, or is that the end of him?
I think that they're looking at, well, it's like Pete Carroll, who's 72. Bill Belichick is 72.
Yeah, he's probably retired.
Yeah, they've gone younger. Like the coach that replaced Pete Carroll's name is McDonald, and he's like 36. He's happy.
Tickets. He's a McDonald. Maybe he can get you tickets.
Yeah, well, his is MAC, so he's not legitimate. It's an MC is the only legitimate one. So, but anyway, I wanted to talk to you about one of the things that you teach classes in, because I firmly believe that everybody has got their own intuition, and that they can. It's like a muscle. They can grow it and make it stronger and know how to use it. A lot of people don't even think that they've got an intuition, or how to use it, or that it makes any sense, or whether it's really accurate or true. When you teach your class, how do you help people understand that intuition is, everybody has it, and it's an important aspect of our lives?
So the reality of life is anybody can do anything they want to do in this world. If you wanted to suddenly, be a recording artist, you can go record your own record. You may not be any good at it, but if you work at it, you probably get better, right? It's like playing a piano. Some people sit down and play chopsticks, and that's all they can do. Some people want to apply themselves and learn, so they'll teach themselves some songs. Other people want to make a living at it, so they become a concert pianist. And then you have some people that have a lot of ability. That was me. I was like the 6-year-old prodigy that sits down and plays Mozart. Everyone is born with psychic ability and mediumship ability, believe it or not. However, everyone can do the psychic part of it. Everyone can't always do the mediumship part, because you have to be doing it with a pure heart. If you're sitting here trying to use it for nefarious purposes, the angels and guides on the other side are not going to work with you. It's that simple. They're only going to work with you if you're doing it with a pure heart. Okay. But intuition, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's almost like you have to do an interview with the guides on the other side so that they can interview you and make sure that your motives are pure, and that
they know They automatically know. And I mean, there's a lot, psychics have a bad reputation, right? Because through the centuries, you have lots of psychics that were trained like gypsies that would set up shop somewhere and have the flashing sign, psychic, stop in, I'll give you a psychic reading, and, $5,000 later, I'll give you a love potion and make Joe Schmo fall in love with you. Well, that's nefarious reasons. They're not mediums. They will never be mediums. They will not work with them. And they don't advertise as mediums because they're not. They're only psychics. And, everybody's had that situation happen where maybe you thought about somebody, right? And in a short period of time, they either called you or they showed up.
Yep.
Because thoughts are things, and that is your psychic ability. Thoughts are things. It's energy that goes back and forth between people. So you're picking up on all of that.
Exactly. Now, what's the difference between a psychic and going and getting a psychic reading and somebody who tells you they're a fortune teller and is going to tell you the future?
That's the same thing.
And can they tell you the future?
So if they're a good psychic, they can, yes. And the reason that they're able to do that is, well, they might be able to tell you. They might not be. Some might be able to if they're doing it for the right reason and not out to rip you off, because the guides will work with them from the other side and give them that information. So anything that's from the future has to come from the other side. I can't sit here and tell you the future. I have to get that information from your guides on the other side. That's where that comes from.
How does free will come into play, or does it come into play?
So, the universe wants you to think you have free will, but the reality of it is you've built choices into your life plan before you came here. And one of the biggest reasons you're here are to learn your 5 lessons for your soul to advance. And so all your choices are based around whether or not you're going to learn those lessons or whether you're going to delay them. So, the universe offers you door 1. You take door 1, you go through it. Maybe you get married, you have children, you get divorced. 2 and 3, and you're going to keep taking the same door until you learn your lesson. Then you'll take door 2 or door 3.
So it can actually take, if, as an example, you came in with a plan and you sat, as I understand it, you sat there with your guides and with your team on the other side, and you kind of planned out what do you want to accomplish this time? What do you want to accomplish when you come down here?
Why are you coming back? Yep. Who are you going to work with? What karma do you owe people? What are you going to collect? What happens if you don't go through door 1 again? What happens if you learn that lesson? Then what? Or what happens if you don't learn that lesson? Who's the next person in line that's going to come up to teach you that lesson?
And one of the things that has happened in my life at least 3 different times is there are people who came into my life, they made a certain contribution to it, and then they left. As an example, there's one guy wanted me to go to school with him to learn about auto body. I hated auto body, but I went anyway. And then he decided he didn't want to go to auto body when we were standing in line. And so he ended up sitting with the drama coach and took a couple of drama classes. That's where I met my wife. That's where I got my acting skills. That's where I learned to be a DJ and all of that, because that was what was in my plan. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that he was also part of that plan, and we had conspired on the other side for us to meet in that way and for him to help me, to push me along the road.
That would be a karmic relationship. He's there just to teach you something or have something happen in your life. That's a karmic relationship. Yeah.
And I haven't talked to him in 40 years.
Yeah, there you go. Once the lesson is learned or you're on the path, and that's it. It's like they ghosted. They don't come around anymore.
They've got their, because isn't it true that they've got their own path that they are working on?
Everybody does. Yeah. And you were part of that. You were part of that when you were there. And I'm sure there was something that he got out of it that put him somewhere else.
He did, I think. Yeah. I hope. But so that happens to us all the time. How come more of us aren't aware of it, or they don't think about it in those terms?
So we're here living a 3D experience. We're in a body, just like an avatar. You are not the suit that sits here. You're the soul, the energetic soul that's inside. And while you're here to have a human experience. So this is all part of your human experience. And we have a brain in our head as a human being, right? And our brain is like a massive computer, and some people's computers are better than other people's computers. Some of them have more RAM and more memory, right? Everybody's got that computer. But your brain has a very specific job. Your brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. So most people are making all their decisions based on fear. You make your pros, you make your cons, right? And when you do that, it's literally a 50-50 crapshoot. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, but you're always questioning your decision. When you learn how to get out of your computer brain, get out of it completely and get in touch with your soul, this is where all your intuition will start to come from. It's that gut feeling, that it's the knowing. Everybody's had something in their life happen that they just had this knowing, whether it was, I shouldn't go out this way to work in the morning, and they avoid a pileup, or I just knew for me, I just knew I was going to die if I had my surgery. I knew it for 5 years in advance that if I had that surgery, I just knew I was going to die. And that is your soul giving you that message, that intuition. And when you learn how to follow that, life becomes very easy. Life becomes wonderful because you're not struggling with what you should do or what you shouldn't do. You're listening to that inner voice that's guiding you all the time to put you where you're supposed to be.
When during my opening, and it happened to me in my life, and I just want to discuss this with you briefly, just because I want to, and that is, we, at least in my case, and I see this in a lot of people. It's like there's a point in time when they're like, why am I really here? I've done the things, I've done the car, I've done the house, I've done the career, I've done those things, but that I'm not fulfilled. Why am I really here? What steps would you recommend somebody take to start delving into those answers of why you're really here?
So, that's usually what people call a midlife crisis. And it starts a lot of problems with a lot of relationships because people try to find that answer in different ways. A lot of times it's, I don't like where I'm at, I don't like where I'm living, and they just get up, pack a bag, and walk out the door, never to be seen again. Or they might withdraw all the money out of the bank and run down and buy themselves the most expensive sports car they can find, right? People handle it differently, but the reality of it is it happens in everyone's life at some point in time. It happens when it's supposed to happen. And it's the time for you to start looking inside and getting in touch with that soul, because that's who you truly are. You are the soul inside. You're not the suit that sits here. And when you start getting in touch with your soul and listening to your soul, most people have some type of religious belief and believe in a higher power. And when you do that and you pray, you're asking the universe. When you meditate, you're getting the answers to those questions, and you're getting them through connecting with your soul, because your soul is way too big for this body. Some of it's in this body. Some of it is over your body that people can see, and they call it an aura. And then the majority of your soul is actually in the lowest level of heaven, the fifth dimension. And it orchestrates all the timing of all the events that happen in this lifetime, but it holds all the knowledge as well of all of your lifetimes. So when you actually get in touch with your soul, you're getting in touch with that big portion of your soul that's in heaven. And you're getting downloads, your ears will start to ring because it's downloading information to that computer brain that you have. And suddenly you have more knowing because you're more in touch with your soul and you're listening to the information that it's giving you. And it will put you on the path of why you're here.
So which do you think is the better part of you? The part that's on the fifth stage of heaven, or the part that's down here?
There's no better part. It's all the same. It's all you. It's all one soul. It's just spread out in different places. So for instance, when I'm doing, say I'm doing a reading with someone and they want me to tap into someone else. Well, I'm sending that part of my soul there. If I was going to go to your house and go tell you what your house looked like, I'd be sending part of my soul to your house so it could send messages back to me. and into this brain, and I would process it that way and spit it out of my mouth. But it's still all one soul. It's all you. There's no one's better than it's you. It's all part of you.
Now, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the relationship of soul to soul. Do they know each other? Do they have soul groups? Are they part of each other? How does that all work? Because at one point in time, I think that they must get together, especially if you've got a soul contract with other people, and that side of you must get together and talk about how you're going to orchestrate to bring to fruition what needs to happen for you to and for them to move along their path. We're talking with June Edward. If you want to find out more about this young lady, go to juneedward.com. That's where all of her books are. And she's got speaking opportunities and podcasts and services and reviews and all kinds of stuff. It's a great website. So I want to thank June for being here. We'll be right back right after this quick 30-second message. Just don't go away.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And well, I hope that woke you up. If nothing else did, that might wake you up. You're listening to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and June Edward is our guest. And I'm curious to know the souls while we're here, and a portion of us is in heaven still. And they must be communicating with each other and have relationships, and how does that all work? Do you have any idea?
So from what I've been told from the other side, as far as making your plan to come here, every archangel has a soul group, and there's millions of people in that soul group. And those are the people that you reincarnate with lifetime to lifetime. And prior to coming back, you actually have to meet with the archangels and some angels to determine that you are ready to come back, because there are people that aren't ready to come back. There are a lot of people that have taken their own life, and they want to make sure that doesn't happen again, because that's never written into your plan, and it's not an acceptable out. You literally let everybody down, and the angels have to scramble to fix all those connections. So they have to make sure that you are ready to come back. And then when you are, it's a massive procession of people that who's going to be in whose life, who's going to play what role, who do you owe a karmic debt to, who are you going to collect a karmic debt from. What lessons do you still need to learn or reinforce when you're here? What would you like to do? What role would you like to play here? Because pretty much you're just writing the script to a movie, and you're the actor in your own movie. What position do you want to play this time? Do you want to see what it's like to play the cheated on spouse? Do you want to see what it's like to play the heroine? Do you want to see what it's like to play I don't know, maybe someone in Congress? Or what role do you want to play when you're here this time? And everybody chooses their little roles and what they're going to do. It's quite the production, because again, the universe wants you to think you have choice, right? But some choices are only going to take you back in a circle. That's all they're going to do. And they're going to keep delaying the lessons that you're supposed to learn. And you're going to keep repeating the same thing over and over until you get the lesson and it clicks. Then it's like moving up the ladder. It's like an immense board game that you've created that, everybody's got their little part. And every time you learn your lesson, or you're on the path that you're supposed to be on. And when you get on the path that you're supposed to be on, it's like a direct zoom right to the end of the game. It's great. But while you're on that path, if you're on the right path and you're in touch with your soul, life is amazing. And do we communicate? Absolutely. When we're here in 3D, this is 3D. When you go to sleep at night, your vibration actually rises, and you go into that dream state. and the lowest level of heaven is 5D. Now they're traveling at a very high rate of speed there. It's 300 million miles a second is the speed of light, and that's how quickly they're traveling on the other side. So if they want to get in touch with you and you're not in touch with your soul during the day, they will try to reach you in your dream state. They will lower their vibration and meet your soul there. And you'll know it's a visit, not a dream, because it feels real. You wake up right away and you remember everything. That is a visit from the other side. And you can also get visits from souls on this side. Now, suppose something's going on and you're not on your life path and they want to give you a nudge or they want to give you information. Maybe you were supposed to move to California and you didn't do it, and there's something going on, or you've got a relative out there. They can send their soul to that same 4D level when they're sleeping at night, and their soul will communicate with you there. And you might be thinking, oh, somebody needs me. My mother needs me. I need to go. Or my brother, there's something going on with my brother. He needs me. I just know it. I dreamt about it. It wasn't a dream. It was a visit. He visited you, reaching out for help, that type of thing.
Now, I've noticed in my own world that when I feel like I'm being visited by somebody, the quality of the dream is way different than if it's just a regular dream.
It feels real. Yeah, it feels like it's real because it is real. They are visiting you. It's not a dream.
And it's amazing when you are, because then you wake up and you remember really
Exactly.
what it was all about.
That's a visit. That is a visit from the other side. Yep. Or from this side. Could be a visit from this side. I've had souls visit me from this side. It's funny. A lot of my students will tell me that my soul had come to visit them. And given them more information about my program, or scolded them because they weren't doing the work they were supposed to be doing, which I find very interesting. I'm like, I very well could have been visiting you in your dream.
I drove a bus for 12 years, and I ran across a lot of people that that considered life to be very, very difficult, very, very hard, and they were not happy with it because it was difficult and it was hard. But that's kind of by design, isn't it? Because isn't it a privilege for us to be able to come here?
So it's by design to a point. I mean, a lot of it's perspective. I used to always say, there for the grace of God go I, because I came from nothing. I came from a very, very difficult, challenging, broken family and life. But I always was grateful for everything that I had. And I always knew that I could have always had it a lot worse. There's always someone that has it worse than we do. So a lot of times it's perspective. Okay. It's just like people that live in poor countries and they don't have shoes, or, they have very meager clothing and, very meager homes to live in. And everybody's like, oh, those poor things, but they don't know any differently. So they're happy with what they have. It's perspective. Maybe they're really happy because they actually have a house to live in and they're not living under a tree or something. Everything is perspective first and foremost. But yes, a lot of people that are suffering, and I had to ask my sister on the other side, and I actually only asked her a few weeks ago. She's with me a lot, and I had to ask her why she came here to suffer the way that she did, because she was one of the kindest souls in this world, and she ran a soup kitchen in Venice Beach. They called her the Lady of Venice. And she would spend her entire day collecting food that, was going to be thrown out from the grocery stores, and had people that would get together and they would make soup and they would haul it all down every single night. And they would feed a couple hundred people that were not just homeless, but people that had to decide whether or not they were going to pay their rent or eat, those people that fall through the cracks. And
Right.
she did this for years, and she started a nonprofit, and she was working towards making a woman's shelter. And when she died, she suffered terribly. She had stage 4 cancer because she was afraid of the doctors. And she moved from LA County back up to where her home was in Badger. And she had no health insurance then, because in California, it goes county to county. And I was on the phone trying to beg the doctors that are up in that area at the clinic to at least get her some pain medication, because she literally had a hole that went right through her bladder.
Yeah.
And they gave her 3 weeks to live, I think. And she was stubborn, and she hung on in pain like that for almost 4 months. And I asked her why she would put herself through that and feel all that pain, because when you feel that pain, your soul feels that pain.
Mm-hmm.
You take two things with you when you go. You take your knowledge and you take all of your feelings. So when she's feeling all of that pain and suffering, she took that with her soul to the other side. And I used to joke with her on the other side when my abilities first opened up, and she was very helpful to me, and she's a wonderful guide for me on the other side. I used to joke that, she should be an ascended master, and ascended masters all were human and walked the earth. Mother Teresa, Jesus, they're all ascended masters. They're teachers and helpers for here on this side. And so she finally told me that she said she is on that path to be an ascended master. And she had to come here and learn and feel what other people feel when they are suffering that badly, so that her soul knows. Because if she doesn't know, she can't help.
That is really so true, because well, I need to take a station break, but when we come back, I want to talk about the difference between experience life and knowing life. I think there's a difference there that I'd like to talk. We're talking with June Edwards. I got to tell you, I really get a lot out of these conversations, because you are very gifted at what you do, and you are, I think from my perspective, you're spot on, because a lot of what you have to say, I have in my heart felt to one degree or another that is true.
We know it in our souls already.
Yes, and what's really fun about it is that more and more of us are getting that knowing as we go all the time. And we're going to talk about Pluto too. We're going to talk about everything. So when we need to take a quick break, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And we've got June Edward with us, and she is a relationship expert. She is a psychic medium, and she's a pretty smart cookie, if you want my opinion, which very rarely does anybody want my opinion, but that's beside the point. But I wanted to ask you, because the experience of life, really, you can only have it if you're here in all of it, with the ups and the downs and the pain and the joy that is all physical based. Is that true, or can you experience the same things on the other side, or is that why we come here, to gain a different perspective from the experiences we gain?
Well, we come here for a lot of different reasons. First of all, when you're on the other side, you don't have a body. So you have to live vicariously through the people that are here. They used to say, if you set an extra plate at the dinner table, they'll come and have dinner with you. And they absolutely will. Now, they can't eat the food, but if you're sitting there enjoying, a meal that they used to really love, they're going to remember what it tastes like, and they're going to enjoy it through you vicariously. Okay. So we come back about every 350, 450 years is what we average. They wait because they're still experiencing the last lifetime here on the other side. So they remember everybody. They come and check on everybody. They want to help everybody. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. They wait on the other side until everybody that they knew was gone, plus some. And then they decide, you know what? I think it's time for me to come back down. Why do we come back down? First of all, for a little mini vacation. Because when you're on the other side, again, you can't do the things that you can do in a physical body. You can't actually go fishing. You can't taste the food. You can't smell the food. You can't have sex. You can't do any of those things if you don't have a body. So they make the entire plan of what else am I going to do? Well, I still never learned that unconditional love lesson. Maybe I better work on that one when I come back down. Who best would be in my life to help me learn that unconditional love? Oh, gee, I'm going to have a little bit tougher life this time then, I guess, because unconditional love has always been difficult for me to try to learn. So what's going to happen to me in this? Well, okay, I don't know, maybe I'm going to have a ton of kids and everybody's going to abandon me. Who knows? You write the story on the other side before you come here. But those are the biggest reasons that we do come back. And there are exceptions to every rule. I worked on a murder case of a little girl that was, I wasn't working on a murder case. I was trying to bring her through for her family. She had been murdered at 10 years old, and they wanted to talk with her, and I could not bring her through. And so far I've been able to bring everyone through on the other side. Could not bring her through. And her family from the other side came through to let us know that she reincarnated immediately after she'd been murdered, which is unusual, but it happens. There's exceptions to every rule. There's nothing's ever set in stone anywhere. So that was the reason.
Exactly. I call the experience of life like pumpkin pie. If you've never had pumpkin pie and somebody tries to describe it to you, they might be able to describe it to you kind of, sort of, but they're not going to get, the totality of the experience. So when you have pumpkin pie here, but when you go back to the other side, you can remember what it tastes like. So you can have an idea of what we're talking about and also enjoy it to some degree or another.
Right. So when you're on this side, when you're a baby and you're born, you still have all the memories from all of your lifetimes when you come through when you're first born. I've been able to talk to my last couple of grandchildren that were born and have a little conversation with them a little bit about why they were here and why they choose my son as parents and things like that. But as you start to grow, you lose those memories because you're supposed to be here living this reality. So you can't really do that if you're remembering all of your past lives. And there have been instances with children that, 4, 5, 6 years old that are still remembering their past life and it hadn't cleared out yet for whatever reason. But eventually it does. And you start living just this life. So again, in this life, if you haven't had pumpkin pie, you're still not going to know what it tastes like. You will when you get back to the other side, even if you don't eat it in this lifetime, because I'm sure you've had it in another lifetime. But in this lifetime, you're only going to know what you know here.
Exactly. And, my wife and I, when my youngest son was 3 years old, and she was having a discussion with him because he'd done something wrong. And he said, well, when I was the mom, and she said, what? And he said, when I was the mom. And so that's kind of how it works, is that we are in a soul family and we can reincarnate with each other, but we can take different roles. We're the father last time, you can be the daughter this time.
I have a friend of mine, her and her husband had a lot of difficulty having children. She had a severe brain injury, traumatic brain injury. And the night that she found, the night they talked about having children, they were sitting at the beach and there was a nice big fire in front of them. And someone took a picture from behind of the silhouette of the two of them in front of the fire. And when their daughter, they finally had a child, they had a little girl. And when their daughter was about 5 years old, she walked by the picture and pointed to it and said, I remember that night. That was the night I chose you and Daddy as my parents.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
crazy.
hope she was happy with that decision her whole life.
Well, it will play out eventually, right? She's still young. She's only about 15 now.
Well,
Yeah.
being
But
being
she was an
15.
extraordinary child. She, people don't believe in fairies and things like that, but they're real. I mean, we don't see them as often in the United States as they do in other countries, but they absolutely exist. And she would see them. She would see them. She would have conversation. She would feed them. It was amazing. Yeah.
And it really is possible now. In Ireland, they have um, well, leprechauns in Ireland,
Yeah.
and stuff, and so, but they're all over the place. But I wanted to ask you this too: is that when we are on the other side and we're planning to come down here, and we're picking our friends, picking our enemies, and we're picking the body that we are going to be into, sometimes we pick a body that's not well or is not perfect, and that is by our own design, isn't it? Or because a lot of people say, why did this have to happen to them? Or why were they in a wheelchair? Or why did they get
There are no accidents in this world. There are none. There are no coincidences. Everything that's happening is happening for a reason, and it's always happening for you. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you, because they're always, always on the other side working to make sure that everything that happens for you really is for your best. And sometimes you're going through stuff. Let's say your house burned to the ground. Oh my God, it's terrible. I've lost everything. My animals died, right? My aunt died. All these terrible things that happened, right? But something else amazing comes from that. Maybe a collection was taken up and the veterans built you a brand new home and the house that you had really wasn't that nice. Something comes out of everything. Maybe you decide to pick up and leave. Maybe you're not going to live there anymore because I've lost everything. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm out of here. And you move to another state and you meet the love of your life, or you get offered the opportunity of a lifetime. It's all there's a design for everything. Everything that happens, there's a reason for it. You just have to trust, number one, that it is happening for a particular reason and try to find the good that comes out of it. Hindsight's great. We can all look behind and see how everything happened. And a lot of things that happened in our life we thought were terrible, but realistically, the next thing wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen. And we can see the good in it from behind. It's hard to see it when you're in it or moving forward. So this is where trust comes in, and you have to trust that you made the plan and that there is a higher power helping you, and everyone else on the other side is there to help you, all your angels, all your guides, and we're here to help each other on top of it. So there's a lot going on that you don't always see right away, but you have to understand it's happening for you and trust that.
Even if it is a tragedy of someone with stage 4 cancer at an early age, because they can be. I had an interview with a young gentleman. His name is Hiram, and he has stage 4 cancer, and he's 21. And his girlfriend looked at him and said one day, "Look, when you pass away, I'm going to be really sad either way. So I want to be sad as your wife," which was a very uplifting piece to what otherwise would be a tragic story. But that can have benefits far beyond that particular couple. It can manifest itself to other people who can look at that example and take something from it. So that may be why he was here in the first place.
And the way I look at it, he's just getting out early because it's amazing on the other side. It's absolutely incredible. I mean, you don't have pain. You don't have a body. It's weightless. It's, I was feeling overwhelming love because it's the feeling that I have in my heart and what I choose to. You get to the other side as far as your personality and all that stuff, you're still pretty much the same. But yeah.
See, I was really concerned about that at one point. Was like, if we go to the other side, will I still have a sense of humor? Will I still have my ideals about the way that I am, and be kind to other people and do what I do? I think that's wonderful if you can if you get to continue that on, so
It's
that you
funny.
are
I
who you
brought I brought a gentleman through the other day for his partner. And he's like, I've been to a few mediums and they're all telling me that he's fine and blah, blah, blah. But, that's great. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that he's fine. But they're not really giving me anything from him. It's just really generic, general stuff. And so, I brought his partner through for him. And oh my God, what a pistol this guy was. And I'm just repeating the stuff that he's saying to me. He's like, oh yeah, that's him. That's for sure. The stuff he was coming out with was a little dirty too. And he's like, yep, that's him. I'm like, yeah, well, absolutely, that's him. He goes, how come nobody else could, he wasn't, I said, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else. All I can tell you is what I get. And I got him standing here and this is what he's got to say. And he had quite the sense of humor, as dry as it was.
Well, and sometimes the communication, just because of the energies match up a little bit better for some people versus others. I don't know.
Not so much. So when you're on the other side, again, if you've gone into the light, you're moving at the speed of light, 300 million miles a second, very, very fast. This is why most people can't see them. Your eyes can't follow that. If you're not picking up on the energy, you're not going to see them. But some of them on the other side have been able to slow their energy down enough to be able to speak. He was. Others can't. They haven't figured out how to slow their energy down enough, so it's all sign language. And it's interesting. I also brought another woman through the other day. It's the first time I've ever brought through an elemental. And she was actually the guardian. She had been a relative of this woman way back in Greece, and she was an elemental. And I brought her through and spoke with her, and she spoke very slowly and very clearly. And the energy to do that for them on the other side is just incredible when you're going from 300 million miles a second down to that.
That's pretty amazing. By the way, again, we're talking with June Edward. Go to her website, juneedward.com. Find out all about her. This is a subject that I think needs a tremendous amount more studying and for people to understand. I've been doing this for a while, June, and I've had, I don't know, I've been a part of probably several hundred readings from various psychics and mediums to other people, and including John Edward and several others that are prominently known, including the Massachusetts medium. And I don't know if you know who that is, but no, that's June Edward. And but there are people who don't believe that is actually true or that is actually possible. I'm hopeful that in this next segment that we can kind of dispel that just a little bit, because I know for a fact that what you do and what a good medium can do is connect you to the other side in a way that can only have come from that individual, and they make a point of that. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. So you're listening to Positive Talk on the Brushwood Media Network, and we'll be right back.
A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. Millions of dollars are stolen every day from unsuspecting older adults by family members, caregivers, and trusted professionals. If you suspect financial exploitation, call the Elder Care Locator at 1-800-677-1116 or go online to the National Adult Protective Services Association to be connected with help in your area.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. See, that was just 30 seconds, not a big deal. And we learned a little bit about elder abuse, which really can be a really awful thing. So take care of your mom and your dad and your uncle and your aunt, and to make sure that they don't get taken advantage of would be my advice to you there. We're talking with June Edward, June Edward, and she is a psychic medium, a relationship expert. She's an author. She's written several books. I really encourage you to go to juneedward.com and find out and buy her books and learn about the life that she has led, because it's an important aspect for all of us to know that there is the other side. Number one, I have a relative who doesn't believe in the other side, and it's like, that's a waste of time and energy. But there is the other side. We are all connected, and it's all energetic, and it's an important aspect. I would love for you to. I know that what you do is real because I've experienced it a bunch of times in a bunch of ways. But when somebody comes up to you and is a skeptic or is cynical about it, what do you tell them? Anything, or do you just say you'll figure it out?
So the reality is this: there are some people that just don't want to know. And I had a friend that I grew up with who had a stroke, and I had helped him financially a little bit through that. And I hadn't talked to him in a while. So I texted him this weekend to see how he was doing. And he's like, oh, I'm doing awesome. I have 2 YouTube channels I'm doing. I'm like, oh, great, on music? Because he was a musician. And he's like, no, I can't do music anymore since I had the stroke. He goes, it's on religion. I said, religion? He goes, yeah. He goes, there's no God. He goes, it's all about, cults like Jehovah's Witnesses. They killed my mother. I said, she wouldn't take blood because of her beliefs. I said, well, I won't take it right now because of my beliefs. So guess what? They didn't do anything they weren't supposed to be doing. It was her time to go. Well, there's no God. I said, really? I said, well, differently than that. I said, I've been to the other side. He's, well, prove it. I said, I don't need to prove it. I said, I can tell you what I've experienced if you choose to believe it. He goes, well, there's no proof that God exists. So I said, well, what about, there's miracles that happen every day. What about a baby? I said, we cannot duplicate making a baby. I said, if a baby grew for 40 weeks at the rate that it grows for 6 weeks, it would be born over 185 pounds. We don't know how to make a finger grow or how to make a hand grow or how to make an arm grow. We have no idea how to do that. I said, that is a miracle. I said that, he goes, I'm not going to research anything that would prove anything different than my beliefs. I'm like, listen to what you just told me. You refuse to learn because it might change your belief. And that's a lot of people. They don't want to learn anything that's going to change what they believe. So eventually something may happen. Guess what? They're going to die at some point. I guarantee you it's going to change your belief system. I guarantee it. 100%.
And most of the time it's like a half hour before. It's like, oh, please, I don't know. It's like
I've never seen an atheist on their deathbed. And and quite honestly, I had a friend that was a really good friend of mine. I never knew he was an atheist. And we had a talk one day, and I explained what happened. He was still an atheist. So then I ran into him maybe a year or two later, and I said, so are you still an atheist? And he's like, no, not anymore. I'm like, how come? He goes, well, something happened. I said, what happened? He goes, I can't talk about it. I'm like, okay.
I had a friend one time that we used to go to breakfast all the time, and right when our meal would come, he would bow his head and he would pray. And I said, but you don't go to church. You don't seem to practice, the religious ideals of your faith or anything. He said, no, I don't. I'm just covering my bases.
But you know what? That's okay. It's all about being grateful. The American Indians would take a portion of every one of their meals and bring it out and thank the Lord and put it down on the ground for nature, for the animals. Every meal. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. None of that matters. It matters that you are going to, whether you like it or not, that's where you're going. And
it's, it doesn't matter what your religion is, even if you have no religion, it makes no difference. There's one God. You can call it whatever you want. There's only one. And that's where you're going to end up. Unless you've sold your soul to the devil or you've taken someone else's life and you have no remorse, Those are the only people that I'm aware of that go downstairs and not up.
Exactly. And there was this old joke that that I don't know if I've told you this yet, but it bears repeating because there's somebody that hasn't listened to this yet. And it's a gentleman dies and he goes to heaven. St. Peter meets him at the gate, and St. Peter says, "Well, come on in. Let me show you around. Let me show you around." And they go around and they see some fabulous things, and then they come to a door and it says, "Quiet, please," and the door is closed. And he said, does it say quiet, please? And why is the door closed? And he said, "Shh. Those are the Lutherans. They think they're the only ones up here." and so, we all get to go to the same place, and we get to experience. We are all one. We are all together. It's all, and to me, that's factual. So we're all together.
Well, it's interesting on the other side because there's so much to do. Say you wanted to travel in this lifetime and you didn't get that opportunity. Well, now you're on the other side. You can go travel any way you want. You can go look at stuff all day long. There are a lot of people on the other side. When I bring them through, they're like, the person that I'm reading for will be like, "Well, is my Uncle Fred up there?" And I don't know. I'm asking, "Is Uncle Fred there?" And they're like, "I don't know. I haven't seen him." Everybody thinks everybody gets together that knows each other as soon as they die, even if they're relatives. That's not necessarily the case.
No, if you didn't like your relative here, you may not
matter of liking them. It's a matter of that. Some people just go do their own thing on the other side. If you're married, it's a different story. But if you're just relative, they just go do their own thing on the other side. They're not going out of their way to go find somebody else that, might have passed away.
Exactly. I had an experience in my life that I really want to experience again. I was a football player when I was 17, and I had the game of my life. And it was, in matter of fact, I played defense, and the announcer at one point, because I'd made so many tackles and was so impactful, he said, "And tackle made by guess who?" Well, I want to go to the other side, and then I want to re-experience that game.
You can do that. I mean, you can go play professional football if you want. You just be running in the lines with everybody there. They aren't going to see you.
And you can actually go into the stadium and be on the field, and you can listen to the calls.
And it's amazing. I mean, if you're coming from the light, you can go back and forth as much as you want, anywhere you want. What's difficult are the ones that are stuck here that have not gone into the light, because the low vibrational entities, ghosts, they can't move any faster than you and I. And that's very disheartening sometimes for people.
And if you want to talk to June about that, she can also help with that. If you have somebody that you feel, or if you feel like there's a presence in your house, she can.
Oh, that's a lot of people. Oh my God, my phone's been blowing up with that lately. With everything that's happening in the world right now, people need to understand that they need to protect themselves, because they're attaching to people like crazy. You're taking them home, and if you even talk to them and give them any attention at all, you can't get rid of them.
And there you go again. We now have to do another show on that, because every time I talk to you, there's more and more information that needs to get out to people about how it really works. It's not a fantasy. This is more
real.
This is
it's very real.
And this is how it works. And so if you learn to work with that and understand it, then you can make decisions in your life of a positive nature and choices that make sense for your future and what your soul's really here to do. June, I want to thank you so much for being here. You're so awesome.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love coming on your show. You know that. I love seeing you. Your wife's going to get jealous.
If I had one of those, but that's a story for another time. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, go to juneedward.com, find out all about her. If you've got an apparition that is following you around, hire her. She can help them get into the light. And again, thank you so much, young lady.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at kmmedia.pro.